Yeah.
And
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. And you see who I'm with, my partner, my home girl and host of Magic Mile High Minute, Tina Winter. What up, Tina?
even I stumble over it, so I don't care.
I had it in my head. I was like, yeah, Mile High Minute, Mile High Minute. And then I was like, did she switch it? Oh God, here we go.
Hanging on, she hasn't quite done it yet. So
There we go.
no longer a minute. We have a little more to talk about, and there's a little magic going on in my eyes. So, all right, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm here with Sean. We're going to be doing our breaking news, and hopefully, we're not laughing too much during this. So, there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like me, you're not able to keep up with everything. So Sean and I are going to hit some highlights. We're going to talk about free agency. Of course, we have to. The only thing really out there. Sean and I are going to go through some of the 2024 rule changes on, let's see, my notes say kickoff returns, onside kicks, and the hip drop tackles, the rule change with that. So you'll get our thoughts on that. And also the news just came out not more than 2 hours ago that we already have an illegal tampering claim. And yes, his people are involved.
Come on, man. Come on.
And along with two of my least favorite teams in the NFL, the Patriots and Kermit's team. So
that guy.
I'll try and be a little unbiased on that, guys, but there'll be some glee. I'm not gonna lie.
She said try. Notice she said try. She said she'll try. But Tina, talk to us. Talk to us about this possible tampering my daggone team is involved in.
So it involves Ron Stanley from the Baltimore Ravens. He signed a new contract, so he is going to be staying with Baltimore. But the NFL is looking into an illegal tampering claim. And just so everybody kind of understands what we're talking about, I'm going to give you a little information. We don't know much, but what we do know is this is how it works. Is essentially from the Super Bowl until about 48 hours before free agency starts. You cannot. The only people players can talk to is their own teams that they're currently on. They cannot talk to anyone else. Their agents cannot talk to anyone else. No other teams can talk to anyone else. So until the legal tampering period began on Monday at noon Eastern, you could not talk to other teams. So from Monday until today at 4 p.m. Eastern, when the free agency period began, that's called the legal tampering period is what they call it. And that's when agents can talk to whoever. I mean, like I said, it's very simple. Before Monday noon, you could not talk to anyone but your team. And only your agent can talk to your team. After, in the legal tampering period, your agent can talk to anyone, but you cannot. That's the way it works. Only agents can do this. Yeah. So we don't know a lot of facts. We don't know what's going on, but they announced his resigning with Baltimore's, and a couple of hours later, they announced that they're looking into illegal tampering claims. And what the scuttle is on the internet is that the Chiefs and the Pats and the Commanders somehow were talking to him. We don't know the details, but I'm sniffing a little of the Southern Dirty Bird situation that we had last year in 2024 with Mr. Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, where he said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, where he gave the interview and essentially said, I was talking to these guys before free agency. Yeah, we don't know what it is. It'll usually the way this works is it can be you can lose draft picks, you can have fines, and you could also have suspensions. So they'll figure it out before the draft.
What happened to Atlanta? Did they?
They lost a draft pick. They lost a 5th round draft pick, and there was a
Okay.
bunch of fines, is what happened. But that was it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, depending on how bad the tampering is, people have lost 1st round draft picks in the past.
Ugh, that's not what I'm looking for. I hope we don't. It doesn't go that far. But yeah, that's interesting.
We'll keep you apprised of this situation as the juicy details come out.
Yes, please do. And yeah, I know you and your law mind are very excited about what what we're gonna find out. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you want to discuss next, Sean?
Look. Let's go into the free agency. I think it's funny. You sent me a message earlier and said you're all free agencyed out, and technically it's just begun. But so much stuff has been happening, and you and I are going to just come out with a couple names, guys. You know, a lot of the people that have either been released, been traded, guys have been re-signed. A whole bunch of stuff has happened. A couple guys I'm thinking about. We mentioned, and if you watched yesterday, or actually, there's some that came out today. The Blitz, our new show that's coming out, which the crew of the Roundtable and myself will be coming, talking a lot of this stuff, but also some trivia, some good stuff on the side. But one of the things we broke that news yesterday about Joey Bosa going to the Bills. Huge move for them. 1 year, I believe, like $12.6 million contract. But then they also re-signed Rousseau, who's their other edge guy, so they solidified that spot. Obviously, re-signed Josh Allen. That move to me was something obviously we had our eyes on because we desperately need edge help. So we were looking at him and seeing how much he was going to get. Right, and I know you guys. I know you were very excited that he's out of your division. You know, so that move.
AFC, but yeah, I'm not playing him twice a year anymore.
Exactly. That move was huge to me. What's one of the moves that kind of surprised you, or that caught your attention?
Well, the one that happened today, where the Jets officially released Aaron Rodgers and are taking a $49 million dead money hit. Oof. So they pulled a Denver Bronco, Russell Wilson situation and just said, we're just going to cut our losses on this and go away. It's kind of funny. So according to the details, it's a $21 million cap hit until June 1st. And then after that, it drops to $14 million. And under his contract in 2026, he's due another $35 million in dead money.
Wow. So he's just getting paid. I mean,
yeah, and that kind of leads us to something we did talk about in the Blitz yesterday, was the situation that they have in Cleveland and Watson. And we all kind of discussed it and said they just need to cut their losses.
Yeah.
But they can't now because they signed Myles Garrett for an obscene amount of money too. So, I mean, this is what free agency does.
Right.
You don't realize this guy on the defense is going to raise prices for a lot of other people too. Everybody thinks it's all about position. Yeah. And it can be. But Garrett got that because Zach Braun got his $51 million re-signing contract from the Eagles.
Exactly. See, and then and I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of times when we come into free agency, you'll see a lot of fans that are just talking about, oh, we need this position. That's the best player. Let's get him. And you're not taking into account how much it's going to cost, not just this year, because a lot of times you won't get just a 1-year deal. A lot of guys, they want to lock these guys in, so they're going to get multiple year deals, and it might be, say, 10 million this year, but then it might go up to 15 next year, and then you don't know about incentives and bonuses and all these different things that come into play. So
yeah, and I mean, craziness. The NFL also told the teams they're getting around $300 million in cap space for everybody, so that helped out a lot, especially the Raiders, who had $95 million, and the Patriots had $85 million. That's a lot of space. But what's not being talked about, and I think this is a situation, I do think one of the best teams was the Bears. They did a hell of a good deal in free agency. but they're not completely explaining all the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of the websites that follow the cap spaces are saying there might be some issues down the line.
Yeah.
They're going to deal with it now. They're going to take the hits, and because they needed the players they got. They had to beef up that offensive line. So,
and I
as I
think
like
that's
to
going to be a
say, the
question.
offensive line was quite offensive.
Yeah. But I think that's going to be a question and something we're going to talk about down the line. Just what's the worth of potentially putting it all in for 1 year? You know, you see what the Bucks did when they got Tom Brady in the last couple of years, and they just everything for this 1 year, but then the team had to essentially let everybody go. I mean, or they just kept everybody in house and couldn't re-sign anybody or bring anybody in because they were so strapped. The Rams did it that following year, and they made it to the Super Bowl. But then what happened I mean, at one point the Rams were like
Yes.
5 or 6 years where they didn't even have a number 1 round draft pick.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things play a big role into this. I'm going to keep it going. No, you talked about Aaron Rodgers and him leaving the Jets, which left a vacancy at quarterback. Well, that vacancy was filled with Justin Fields going over to the Jets, which I have mixed emotions about. I love this for him getting obviously another opportunity. Unfortunately, you know, he went 4-2 in the beginning of last season with the Steelers, and then they yanked him out for Russell Wilson. I like that he's going to go over to the Jets. Hopefully, he can do better. But it just seems to be the place where quarterbacks' careers go to die. And maybe hindsight is 2020, and we got Aaron Rodgers, and I really don't know where he's going to go play next year. And I'm looking at Justin Fields like, oh, I feel for you, man. I feel for you because I just don't think anything good come from that. I think Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, Geno. I mean, what do we all think when Geno was there? We thought his career was dead and gone until then he, moved around the league until he finally went with Seattle. But this move by the Jets, I think, it's big for them. Field, I'm not so sure about. And then that also leads us to Russell. Where's he going? He's potentially not going to be in Pittsburgh. We'll talk about where Aaron and all that stuff's going, but I think it's very interesting to see kind of some of these quarterbacks and where they kind of move to. You went from Steelers having 2 decent quarterbacks to now potentially not having any, because I know they're looking at Rodgers, but we don't know if he's going. But that was interesting to me. That one, and then speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers, DK Metcalf, like what? Like what? I didn't see that coming at all. And maybe it was because Pete Carroll left, and now he's obviously at the Raiders. Geno left, but Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf both went out. But I certainly didn't see DK going to Pittsburgh. Now you got two receivers, a tight end. You don't have a running back anymore. But you might not even have a quarterback. So yeah, these moves look good on paper.
It's Tomlin as the head coach.
Very
and
true.
Everyone talks about it like they've been in the playoffs every year. They they have winning seasons. They haven't been able to make the playoffs, or they make it the first round and they're out in one
get knocked
game.
out. Right.
But Tomlin is a damn good coach.
Absolutely.
And I think he's a different coach than Belichick was, but I think he has the same ability that Belichick was. He's a good evaluator of talent. Mm-hmm. And finding the gold lining, finding the goal underneath the coal kind of situation. So, I mean, if we think of running backs that this guy has brought to the forefront and how many of them weren't the first round pick or the second round pick, he'll find a running back somewhere. Oh, yeah. My thing is going to be more like, is Pickett and Metcalf they're talking and like fighting.
Right. Yes. I mean, come on. Their Metcalf is running around. Wait a minute. Pickett ran into him. Wait, Pickett and Metcalf are fighting on the field. What is happening? I can see it happening. I can see it.
I can see Tomlin's brain explode at that point.
Right. What's going on, Handy? Talk about your confidence. Yeah, no confidence in you keeping it short, but you kept it short yesterday. Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, hey, get your boy, Handy, your Georgia boy. Tina, anybody else you have in free agency that you you're surprised with, shocked with, excited about?
Cooper Kupp not getting picked up by somebody,
Yeah.
and he got released
Yes.
today because they couldn't get any trade value for him.
Hmm.
And I think that's because he's just had so many. He had a couple of really good years, and they used him like a workhorse, and he's not like a sturdy body, as I would call it. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't 6'4" and 250-pound kind of thing. He probably should have remained a slot receiver.
Hmm.
He's more of the Edelman and
Right. Right.
who was the other guy in the Patriots? His brain is just his name just really went out my head.
Oh.
Pre Edelman.
Oh.
Um,
I know who you're talking about. Smaller dude.
yeah. Oh, Brandon. He played for the Broncos too, and I cannot come up with his name. But the same kind of thing, kind of like the
Yeah.
smaller slot, quick route guy, and I think he just got injured, and so the injuries are really hurting him. So I
Mm.
hope he finds another place because I'll tell you what, I had him his rookie year. I did really well in fantasy.
I believe it. Oh, I believe it. Absolutely. And that's the crazy part to me. You got a couple of these guys that are leaving after, and it's just like, what? And he's one of those that, like you talked about, 2 or 3 years ago, this guy was Super Bowl MVP. This guy was a Triple Crown winner. I mean, this guy was by far everybody deemed him as the best wide receiver in the league. And now all of a sudden, Cooper Kupp has been released, and nobody seems to want him. You know what I mean?
Well,
I know
I think what it was is nobody wanted him at his price. Or
which
the
is true.
price
What's
that
his value?
what the Rams wanted. So
Hmm.
kind of like what we also talked, like at this point, anyone that's left over, and we could probably come up with a few other names of people that were surprised are
Hmm.
still out there. They're going to be out there until the draft because the
That's what I'm
teams,
thinking.
unless they are already in discussions with somebody,
Right.
then they're going to bring them in. This will start trickling down. It wasn't that I was like free agency out. It was I
Hmm.
couldn't keep it straight. Like every 5 minutes there was another deal being brought up, and Adam
Kept coming.
Schefter, like my thing on Blue Sky, just keeps
Yeah.
binging
Yeah.
his name.
That's because X was shut down. Thanks, Elon. That was shut down 2 days ago. We couldn't see any of that crap because
Blue
because
Sky
he
had
shut
it
down.
all.
That's what I saw. Yeah, I had to. I did. Will hit me to Blue Sky, so I had to hop on over there, get that thing going.
Yeah, that was the discussion on Blue Sky. Was like there wasn't really my thing. Like I like Blue Sky, I like it, and I like how you can like go in with somebody and they'll say, "Here's other people I follow. Do you want to follow all of these guys at the same time?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a lot of NFL stuff on Blue
Yeah.
Sky,
Yeah.
so it was a little lean there because I'm trying to stay away. I've been away from Twitter for a long time, even before anything that happened.
Hmm.
I just was over there, but there wasn't a lot of football news. Oh my, it blew up. Everybody
Yes.
was like, Twitter is down. So everyone that was all over there, they all are on Blue Sky now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Love it.
it was just kind of funny. They're like, first day of free agency and Twitter shut down. What's going on
What?
here?
Right. Just refreshing,
Um,
refreshing, and it's like this does not work right now. I'm like, what? What? Not today. Not today. That
and
person is it Amendola? Was that the one you're talking?
he's the same guy. No, I know
But it's
his
the same
name.
size. I knew exactly.
Mhm. It's that size. It's the Edelman Amendola. It's
Yeah.
the quintessential Bill Belichick.
Not
Yes,
Whedon.
that's it.
Is
Whedon.
Whedon? Whedon? What's his first
Whedon.
name? Is
Is
it
it
Whedon?
Whedon? Hold on.
Andy,
I
look
gotta
that
look
up.
it up. I
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
look that
Real
one
bit.
up.
Somebody said Mike Tomlin is the most
Welker.
surprised.
It's
Welker,
Welker.
Wes Welker. Good call. Good job, Andy.
Yes, thank you.
Wes Welker. Yeah, that's it. That's going to be huge. And look, we oh, what was I going to say? I was going to piggyback it
Well,
on
how
to
about T. Higgins getting franchise tag for the second year in a row?
at this point, when you look at the Justin Jeffersons and you look at how they're trying to pay Jamar Chase, Higgins unfortunately falls to at least third in that, and you're not going to get that money. That's the problem. Higgins is being valued almost as much as Chase, so you're not going to be able to pay him and Chase.
Well, the
So
Browns say they can't, and not the Browns. The Bengals say they're going to. They're saying they're going to pay Chase and Higgins and Hendrickson.
Wow. That's a pretty penny right there to pay them all. Because I know Hendrickson, Washington was looking at him, and I think he's
I
making
got to look it up and see how much
upwards of like
that is right
17
now.
mil. Well, right. That's the other part. So some of these guys are going to be moving and grooving. Um, a couple other moves real quick. Washington let go of Jonathan Allen. We released to him. He got picked up by the Vikings. The Steelers, we talked about their running backs. Najee Harris is now with the Chargers. So you lose somebody from the Chargers and they go to Buffalo, but then you gain somebody in the running back position. That should be very interesting. Obviously, we got Debo. That was a solid pickup. And a lot of other people, I think you hit the nail on the head with a lot of these guys probably will not see a team before the draft. I think unless they're in conversation, I think a lot of these guys will most likely probably be staying where they're at or trying to work towards a deal, obviously. But I think a lot of these guys, I mean, we're what, a month and a half away from the draft. So a lot of people are starting to focus on that, and you have a lot of your pro days happening. So now they're really starting to look right at that position.
Yeah. Okay, I looked it up. I don't know how the Bengals are going to pay these guys. They only have $35 million in cap space.
Right. So
Something
somebody's
they're
got to
going
take
to.
a
Well,
hit.
what they'll do is if they do it, they're going to backload their contracts and push
Yeah.
it off for 3 years. And T. Higgins, well, he gets the immediate payout because he got franchise tagged, so they have to pay the median for I think it's the top 3 people in his position.
Right.
So if Chase gets a really high number, that is going to pull Higgins up. So
they're playing against themselves.
That's going to be some situational accounting going on.
Right.
And at some point, you keep kicking the can stops, and you got to pay the piper. So we'll see.
You're gonna have to.
The one that's interesting to me is the 49ers. Like how many players
Gone.
Their team was built to go to the playoff, go to the Super Bowl this year, and they didn't make it. So they're losing people, but like their wide receiver that they have has an ACL injury. Their running back is getting surgeries in foreign countries. I'm like, yeah, well, that's what happens when you take a thoroughbred and treat him like a draft horse.
There you go. I mean, look.
Everybody that follows me knows I love McCaffreys. I love that family. But
you need to come to DC and put a little pep in that little young McCaffrey step.
Because my man needs a couple of years. I mean, come on.
Listen, he needs to show up now. All right, I need him tomorrow. All right, tomorrow. But yeah, to your point, that's the thing in San Francisco. We talked about it, like you said, they were built to go. And 2 years ago, they were in the Super Bowl. 4 or 5 years ago, they were in the Super. Like they've been to Super Bowls, they've been to championship games. And it's one of those things where you're like, that window is forever shrinking, and this is it. I mean, one of the most underrated moves that they had to make was they had to release Juszczyk, their fullback, one of the most talented, most underappreciated fullbacks in a league that is moving far away from fullbacks. He is a shot, a blast from the past, and I love it. But he's available now, so I don't know what San Fran's going to do. I mean, they're looking to try to pay Purdy. Obviously, Debo's no longer there; he's in Washington. They're just trying to survive right now. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's going to be interesting.
It's kind of interesting. I think a lot of the story, like usually there's always one big, really huge free agency thing, and there hasn't been. It's been kind of like the stories is about the teams that have gone way in, or setting standards. And seriously, Handy, I don't think your birds could even handle that.
What about shots fired? You're right. Yeah, just put in first down. You just put it in the chat, Sandy, because you're still losing that one. Look, we're going to take a quick breather, and then we're going to come back here and talk about some rules. Hey, Anthony is in the chat, and we have a new show coming out. I alluded to it earlier. It's called Let's Talk Football, The Blitz, hosted by the crew of the Roundtable and myself, where we come up with just little stories here and there about free agency, off season, stuff like that, and quick hitters, talking about what we like about it, what we didn't like, whatever. But it's quick and to the point, something that like an appetizer, something to feed you. You can nibble on it. If you like it, you come back for the full meal. So go ahead and get a drink. It's a quick little clip from our guy, Nicholas Rosario, and we'll be back on the other side. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. This offseason, we got to still talk some football. In fact, with so much going on, it's almost like a news blitz. Check out this clip.
I'm going to throw this question up here. And, hey, how we do? Whoever wants to get in there and answer, we know how we're doing it. Free agencies happen. Which teams had the best free agency thus far? Nick.
Come on. Is it not obvious that the Bears of Chicago have had a fantastic free agency so far, my friend? Let us be honest. Okay, look. I only say that because, of course, they're my team. But no, the other reasons are, let's be really honest about what they did. In one fell swoop within a day and a half, you picked up 3 brand new linemen for your team that we desperately needed. Joe Thuney from the Chiefs, Dahlman from the Falcons. Thank you very much, Andy. And, of course, Jonah Jackson from Los Rams de Los Angeles. But, again, I just think the Bears – and plus, let's not forget what they did on defense. And I feel bad. I always forget pronounce this guy's name. Oye Benigo from the Colts.
What you say about my mom?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's I didn't mean to offend anyone. I apologize. I just think the Bears, and again, another handy. Thank you one more time, Grady Jarrett. Which, man, I didn't see that one coming because as soon as you released him, we snatched him up. So, to me, the Bears so far, I'll say it, have had the best free agency.
Yeah, buddy, that was our guy Nicholas Rosario on Let's Talk Football, the Blitz, that will be here with you this offseason. Stay tuned. I think we also talked about the tush push. We'll be discussing that. That's an interesting conversation, as well as what else did we talk about yesterday? Tush push, our favorite free agency moves, and biggest splash or biggest bust. So tune into that. It's gonna be coming out in the next couple weeks. Definitely tune in. All leading towards our 3rd annual Let's Talk Football draft show, where we will have all of the Let's Talk Football people in some way, shape, or form in the show, partially hosting it, looking at their pick, giving analysis, doing this and doing that. So we are excited about that. With that being said, we have one more thing to talk about, and I'm going to send it here to Tina. There were some rule changes, Tina, from a year ago, and did they make an impact? I don't know. Tina, what you got?
I think it kind of depends. I think let's just start with the kick returns, because that seems to be the one that people just really didn't get behind it, and they didn't like it, and they didn't think it made any difference, et cetera, et cetera. We talked when they were talking about this, you and I talked about it. Like, this rule change really wasn't about, they claimed it was going to make the game more dynamic and everything. That's not really why it was being done. It was for safety reasons, because people were more likely to be seriously injured on a kickoff return because of how far away they were running and then smashing into each other. So that was the point. And everybody knows, like, if it got kicked into the end zone, it came back to the 30, which is what you got previously. It went to the 30. So you didn't see that many balls going in what they called the landing zone. Now, there were a couple on my team, Mr. Mims, that there were a couple of teams that were able to figure that out and figure out how to make that get their special teams to kind of have some returns and have some huge gains in yardages. But overall, the opinion I think of the people was that it didn't make that much of a difference. However, according to the NFL, kick returns, like actual returns, jumped from 22% in 2023 to 33% in 2024.
Yep.
So every third one was getting returned. So it did create some difference. But this is one thing that I said about it during the thing is like 30 is nothing. That's not a real penalty for not taking it into the end zone.
Right.
If you're going to want to make them drop it in that landing zone, you got to make that end zone hurt. Like make it so you don't want to have it come forward. So they're talking about bringing it up to the 35 this year. My personal opinion is it should be 40 or 45.
Ooh, good. That would prove the point because then people would definitely make sure they got the kicks either deep in the end zone or figure it out. Right. Yeah, that.
And right now, because for years, it wasn't about positional kicks. It was about big legs and getting it into the end zone so nobody could return it. Or the big leg, when it hit, it would bounce and do things. So it was hard to return. So they got all these kickers with these big, huge legs and everything who can't really, they're not able to place it right there, like in that area, at least not all the time. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, make it hurt, make it 40 yards. And then your big legs are going to have to figure out where to put it, or you're going to bring somebody else in. You've got to make it hurt to keep it that way. Now, I don't know that they'll do that. I think 35 is what they're saying. And I think that's probably a good, if this rule is only going to be enough, it's only a 1-year rule every time they do it. So it's going to be reviewed the next year.
Yeah, and it should be.
Interesting little tidbit, not to go back to my team but I will, is the guy who helped bring about this rule change, Darren Spritz, I forget his name, who was the head coach. He was the head coach at the Saints. Oh, what's his name?
Ritz. Yeah.
Rizzy.
Yeah.
He's the one that helped bring about this change in for special teams and the kickoffs. He's now our special team coordinator, assistant head coach.
Oh, nice. Let me actually see. Okay, I don't have the clip. I had a clip up from the season when he was with the Saints, and apparently, I don't know if you see the clip, Tina, where his punter. He told his punter to kick it out of bounds or something, and the punter didn't do it. And he came, and he was the interim coach, and he came off that sideline, and he tore a new one so much so that Kamara had to be like, "Hey, man, we on TV, man. Come on, just walk away, So Rizzy's fired up, so that's a good move for y'all.
Yeah, well, he came up with this, and it was a safety issue, and so I mean, that's the thing with special teams. Like, people don't realize like how punishing that could be, and you could really get injured on that stuff. So I can see why they also said that while it was only like an 11% increase in kickoff returns, it dropped the injuries drastically, which is what they were going for.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lead it off to you because you and I had a long conversation about some of this, but how about the hip drop tackles?
This to me is crazy. Real quick to put a bow on the last part, there was 7 returns this past year of kick returns. So, it's a little slight increase, but I mean, we'll see how it plays. But yeah, this was something that there was a lot of fuss made about this last year coming into this year, and something that like with the kickoff, they were trying to limit, tackles, especially leg injuries. And it was like kind of like that hip drop and gator roll where they kind of spun them around and got the legs all tangled up and whatnot. But if I'm not mistaken, Tina, and you and I were talking about this, I don't remember. I really don't remember it ever being. I mean, maybe it was called. I think the article you sent said it was called 2 or 3 once. One person was fine. Yeah. But it really wasn't ever used. It wasn't ever called as much. Now, maybe that's because.
It
Maybe that's
was.
because it was called a lot, was it? Oh.
Here's the situation, and I had to read some stuff about this, and so it was called once in a game,
Mhm.
and it was. I'm looking for his name real quick. It was called against Carolina, and it was for a 15-yard penalty. And Widman is the only person who was called for it in a game. What had happened, and this was kind of under the table, unless you were reading like referee websites or something, you would know this.
Yeah.
There's 4 parts to the hip drop tackle, which are hard to see in a game with the game speed going.
Yeah.
So what it was is that the NFL was reviewing the tapes and then fining people after the game for it.
Fact. Wow. See,
So it was one of those that, like, if you've got 4 pieces to something of a rule change, you can't see that all the time.
mhm.
And they
Especially not
literally
fast-paced.
said when they were talking to the refs, like, this is a difficult one. You have to be positive in the game of that they're doing exactly what we want. So if you don't call it, it's not going to hurt your scores.
Okay.
So it was something, as we know, the NFL can review all the tapes, and so they were finding people.
Yeah.
Post.
So how many? So there was only one though called throughout the season, and then but you said there was
he didn't
2
get
that were called
fined.
after the fact. Okay.
When they went, there's an article, and if people want to see it, I'll let you see it. Like, they called it, and then they ended up not finding him because when they reviewed the tape, it really wasn't a hip drop tackle.
Wow, that's interesting.
So
See, and
this
that's
is
the part.
one that I think they're still going to do it for safety reasons. It's just you're not going to see it called in a game. So if you look at it and you go at it and you say that was a hip drop tackle, look and see later, because I bet you anything that person probably got fined by the NFL later.
Yeah, and I think that what you said that was key is that it's 4 different parts to it, because a lot of this is upon interpretation, just like any other penalty on the field. But the fact that they're going back and they're looking at it and then reviewing it, and then that's the part that's kind of a little messed up to me, because it's like, well, if this happens in the game, I mean, that could be a huge penalty, 15 yards. I mean.
Okay, so if you have this situation, like, the reason this came up is because the one guy's ankle got broken with a hip drop tackle. Okay, that's automatically a situation like that where you see it happen in somebody rolls or does something. I think those will be called. That didn't happen in any of the games because they told the teams that they were going to focus on this, so the teams were preparing their people. Now, and remember, like we talked about it, education, so they were looking into it. It's degrees, like how far are your hips falling, things like that. That is not a subjective, that's not an objective thing. It's different for different people, and so that's why I'm not sure about it. Again, it's a safety call. And they realized, which kind of will cue into a conversation we'll have later, if they're saying this is too difficult of a call to make in a game, there's a lot of factors that go into a roughing the passer call.
There it is. Yeah.
So,
roughing the passer, pass interference. You know what I mean? There's a number of these, and look, a lot of it, and we'll talk about this too, is the fact that a lot of these things are, like you said, by sight, by somebody's interpretation of what it is. So it could either be good, it could be not. We don't know. And one of the problems that people are having is humans miss calls. I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So another thing we're going to talk about, not today, but we're going to talk about a little bit later, is the first down. They're trying to implement like a virtual first down marker. And, if any of you watched games on TV, you've seen them have that, the imaginary line that's there, the yellow line, and they will always say, this line isn't 100% accurate, and then you're still relying on the eye of the human and all mind you, we got 7 or 8, officials there all trying to look, but it's almost impossible to get every single one on because the human eye can't see a lot of that stuff, especially when it's all up in a pile and whatnot. So
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with game time, with the
yeah,
speed and everything that's going on. Like, how many times have
exactly.
we looked at something and said, "Oh, that was a helmet to helmet hit," and you see it in slow time, and it wasn't helmet to helmet; it was here, but the force of
Right.
the tackle snaps it and makes them look like it's helmet to helmet. So
Yep.
there's a lot. So when I read that thing about how like it's more of a post game thing and they're fining not doing it in the game, then it made sense why we were seeing the numbers that we were seeing.
Oh yeah.
So the last thing, let's talk about onside kicks
Or the lack thereof.
and the
Because is
fact
this
that
even
you
a
have
thing?
to call it. It can only be in the fourth quarter, and you have to call it ahead of time. And okay, everybody's like, "Oh, it takes out the surprise." You had that stat earlier about 7
Yeah,
kick
kick
returns.
returns.
There was more than that. That's the onside kick. I think that's the onside kick stat. I think last year only 6 or 7 onside kicks actually. Like the year before, it was only like a 6% success rate. But I could be wrong about how many kick returns. Were you talking about going for a touchdown?
Yeah, return touchdowns.
Okay, then yeah, that's correct. But last year, the year in 2023, onside kicks only had a 6% success rate.
That's crazy. Well,
Because let's
normal.
think about this. The
Yeah.
surprise is done as soon as you see the kicking team line up
hmm
in those situations. As soon as you see them straight across, you know they're going for an onside kick. Everybody knows you're going for an onside kick. There's no
The only way.
surprise in it.
Well, yeah, and the only way that teams were ever able to really, able to really surprise, because even back then when they knew, like you said, when they move over, everybody knows what's going on. The only way they were able to surprise is sometimes they lined up straight, and then you see the kicker kind of run up to it and then dribble it down the middle, which is that helped. It happened very seldom. I mean, you really weren't getting onside kicks normally, but now, unless you're the daggone Cowboys and do that watermelon kick where the ball's on the ground and you just kind of squib it down. I don't know what the crap that is, but it
And
was not
it's
a
so
successful
hard to be
play.
successful at them because it's
Right.
got to go so far. Your team can't touch it first.
Yeah.
It turns into now. I think it's kind of interesting because they've been talking. I read a little bit about this. Like they've been bringing over rugby players from overseas, like Australia and New Zealand, and bringing them in, and they're specifically working on these special teams / onside scrum type stuff, and those guys are perfect for it because that's what that's what they do in rugby. But so the new thought with the rules committee is they're discussing whether in that situation it would be a 4th and 15 or a 4th and 20 instead of an onside kick. So kind of like what college does.
Yeah, that's interesting to be a 4th and.
Yeah, but then it becomes strategy as far as the defense is concerned, like, or the offense. Like, do they set this up so they'll immediately get a personal foul because then it'll be automatic first down?
But can you do that?
Well, I think that's going to be the discussions that the rules committee is going to have. And as always with the rules committee, any of this stuff, it has to go in front of the owners committee also. And it has to be approved by, I think it's like 75%. So like 29 out of the 34 teams have to agree to it.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know if it moves the needle or not. Like it's not effective as much as it ever was.
yeah.
And I think you and I had this conversation last year where it just seems like they're kind of moving away from it, with the potential implementation of, doing a 4th and 15 or having the option that is kind of showing you that they're definitely moving away, because that's another short yardage car crash. I mean, you're 10 yards apart and it's just, you know what I mean? And to your point about, the rugby players, I mean, and we'll talk about this. We talked about it on the other show, the tush push, the Eagles. Yeah, some of their linemen are rugby players. And that's one of the things that a lot of people aren't looking at with the tush push is that they got guys that do this. They've built themselves their careers doing this type of thing. So
Yeah.
makes
If you're
different.
not familiar with rugby, just watch a couple of highlights
Watch
of
a
it,
scrum.
and then them scrumming, and literally there's guys that their whole job is literally to get their shoulders and their head underneath somebody and shove them forward. That's it. And that's the
It's
tush
literally a
push.
game. Yeah, it's literally a game of the tush push. That's
Yeah.
what rugby is. It's just the
Yeah.
tush
No,
push, and then somebody breaks away.
yeah.
I mean,
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what some of these committees, and I want to see like the electric eye thing. I want to see like how that's implemented and stuff,
yeah.
and like
Oh,
is
yeah.
that also going to cover like where the refs set the ball?
Hmm.
Are they going to be like if they put it is the team, because like now the teams can say no, you put it in the wrong place, and so they review it, or is that going to come away if the refs are only setting it where the eagle eye says it's supposed to be set? So
And then you also got to think, is each team now going to have a guy that's like in New York? You know what I mean? How much is New York going to be involved as far as reviewing? Because it's all dependent on these reviews and what
well,
they're saying.
that's the one thing is that, at least as I understand it, the footage that is sent to New York is the same footage that ends up going to the teams during the game. So when
Okay.
they're reviewing it, our guys can review it too. Now, the initial ones where they're deciding whether they want to review it, yeah, that's stadium footage. That's right there. So I think if they do go to this and everything, they're going to have to feed that stuff to them. And it will probably just have to be it's going to go the way, I think it's going to kind of go the way the baseball did when they brought in
I can see that happening.
the hitter's box. And I still bitch about that thing because I'm like, how?
Apparently, you did a lot of things in baseball. The pitch clock, the hitter's box, instant replay, all of it. But that's going to be interesting because I do see that pattern happening. Us kind of going, kind of like what they did in baseball, where they're kind of automating, the cameras,
They're
and we already
automating parts of it, but not taking complete.
not everything out.
Yeah, I mean, measuring whether it's 10 yards, that should be easy. And it's not, because if you think about it, when the play ends, they put you take the ball from whatever player you had, unless the ball's on the ground, then you're taking it and putting it in a position. Well, if the ref isn't putting it in the right position, I mean, we've seen games that like this much of a link will end a game. Well, if you move that ball just slightly this way or that way or forward or back, that's that amount of thing. So I like the idea of having, because they're going to know, the computer's going to be able to see exactly where that ball was.
That line is,
and they're going to be able to find that line immediately 10 yards based on where it was. I don't think we'll see the end of the chains on the side, because I think that's a visual representation for the players to know where they need to get to. But 10 yards, if 10 yards was in, it's going to be easy. And then that's the thing. Then the Bills might have actually made it in.
But that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Then the Bills probably one of the ones pushing for this after the fact, because knowing where that ball is supposed to be spotted and what's the yard mark and all that stuff, like you said, could have potentially cost them a shot at going to the Super Bowl. So this is gonna be something that we're definitely gonna be looking at. And look, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of changes and certain rule changes that we're gonna discuss. Like we talked about, the roughing the kicker, roughing the passer is something that potentially is huge. And again, it goes to your interpretation. A lot of people, we have an interpretation of seeing it, but we're seeing it most times in fast pace and then in slow motion, right back to back, because we're watching on TV, as to where the actual refs are doing it strictly with their eyes and just on their interpretation, and it's from different angles. A lot of times we don't understand it because a ref is over here throwing a flag and he's behind, but then there's a guy on the other side that's looking at it and sees there's no infraction, so he didn't throw the flag. But it's you really don't know, because we want to keep that human aspect to it, but we also want to nail down getting these things right so it doesn't cost the team a shot at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty. I do like how the NFL does that they have multiple refs in different areas because you get a different look at something. And so the baseball kind of does it too. Like you have the umpire behind the plate. Well, he can't always see if they swung.
Yeah.
Like, because you know the rule, you can only swing so far, and
it goes all the way through.
So that's why they go to the sides to check, and that's why the guy's like yes or no, because he has a better angle at it. So that's the thing. It's like, don't get upset that they picked up the flag. They picked up the flag because they figured out that guy's view wasn't as good as that guy's view. Right. So it's but it's hard. I mean, fans get into. I mean, the word fan comes from the term fanatic.
Fanatic, absolutely. Yep. And that's what we all are.
That person in the bar.
That's what we all are. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I literally, everybody hits me up and always says, "Oh, the biggest point in the season for Washington was that Hail Mary." I literally got so mad with some other Washington fans pregame on how this game was going to play, and Caleb and JD5 and all this stuff, that I worked myself up to such a tizzy that I took a nap pregame, slept through the entire game. And then I had like people like Andrew Probert messaging me, people calling me, "Oh my God, did you see that? Did you see that?" And I'm waking up like, what? I missed the whole game, but I'm kind of glad I missed it because that one was a back and forth, and it came down to that Hail Mary. So I don't know if my heart could have handled that one. So it shall be interesting.
It was the epitome of Hail Mary. It was like, okay, it's ours.
Right, exactly. Like that meme of the kid who's like, "Oh, okay, all right, I work with that. I like that.
I can take that. Well, I didn't do anything to do this. The guy delivered it into my hands, but okay."
So beautiful. So Tyreek Stevenson, thank you, sir. Thank you for talking trash and tapping the ball to us. But look, we got to go ahead and get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Let's Talk Football breaking news, first episode of season 2. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. This offseason is going to be long. We got free agency that we're going to continually be talking about, the new moves, new rules. We're going to lead up into the draft, look at some of that stuff, and also kind of focus a little bit on our teams, see what direction we're going, kind of look back at what happened last year and how we can improve on that. Both having rookie quarterbacks, so Tina and I are kind of both in the same boat. So it's going to be interesting.
Need to determine if we're going to be Stroud this year.
Right? Oh, my God. That sophomore slump. I'm not looking forward to it.
Sophomore slump, and he still made the playoffs. I don't have a problem with that.
Exactly. Oh, what is going on? Henny said Luna says hello. What's up, Luna? Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, Dinklage, give her an extra bone from me.
So shout out to all you that took a minute and watched us. I know Janae was here, Anthony, LG Prize, appreciate you joining us tonight. Nicholas watched us for a little bit. Appreciate you guys tuning in, taking the time to join us. We will definitely be back this fall with all the news and notes for Let's Talk Breaking News. So for my co-host, Tina Winter, it is your boy, Sean Spencer. We will see you next time. Stay tuned. Tomorrow night, Washington Football Weekly is back because Washington is making moves on moves on moves. And I'm kind of excited about it. But we'll see. We always do this in the offseason, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Bye, peace, everyone. Bye-bye.
We'll see y'all next time. All right. And...
Washington had no hesitation this offseason. They hired Bob Myers, a special consultant.
They're taking advantage of the fact that players and celebrities are public figures.